Right there, guys. I just want to say, I know it's nearly 6 o'clock in the morning. There's a heat wave going off in my city that has really ruined my sleeping pattern up completely to the point where I went TKO. No, not the owners of WWE and UFC. No, don't go down that road. I proper TKO'd, overslept, woke up, and realized, oh, shite. I've missed Dynamite. Live. And I'm kind of annoyed about that. But, fair enough. I literally, when I woke up, I thought, put it on, see how this week's Dynamite goes. And I just want to say, if you're wondering what that was, that's my brother-in-law's cat crying for my attention. Crying for my attention. Quick. As you know, look how cute he is. Who's that? That. Love him to bits. His name's Little Man, by the way.
Hi, everybody. I'm so cute.
As you know, and then he shows you his butt. How cute's that? Distractions. Can't help it, he's cute, isn't he? It reminds me of Stray on the PlayStation game, if you ever found it. And now he licks his paw. The cheeky. But I digress. Anyway, so I woke up, I thought, you know what, I'll catch up with this week's Dynamite. Because I didn't want to leave it until later on in the day. I thought, you know what, whilst it's fresh on the circuit of Thriller, that I've been an avid follower of AEW for many, many years now. And I watch it through Thriller. Great service here in the United Kingdom. I don't know if you get it worldwide, but I do advise people to subscribe. But I'm not actually one of these people that make commission on it. I'm just saying, because you get the full extent of every episode, you get them instead of picture in picture, you have continuous feed. I just want to point this out. I wish WWE did that. And that's a perk of having Thriller. I forget how much it cost me a month. It's not as much as Netflix, but obviously when I pay for that for the WWE, it's like a fraction of that. I think it was like £7 a month, if I recall. I can't be wrong. That doesn't include the pay-per-views, so that's the drawback. You have to pay for those separately, but I still pay for those, if you know what I mean. So I do apologise about the glare. Plus, as well, like I said, I'm on location at my brother-in-law's. You know, that's why I got my usual setup for this upload and possibly SmackDown's upload. If I'm in the mood to watch it, the reason why I'm saying I'm in the mood for, if I'm in the mood for watching it, you should understand my frustrations. If you don't know my frustrations, watch my thoughts and opinions from this past Monday nights of Monday Night Raw. I do apologise about the glare above my head. You know, it's the best way I could get the light in this room. That, quite honestly, the way I can sit down and talk about wrestling. You know? But end of the day, I want to literally point out to everyone that is on this episode. This was absolutely a great opener. It was the 8-man tag team match. It was a great opener. I'm glad it opened. Didn't overshadow the main event to a point, but it took 25 minutes to literally teasing future matches. You literally had the likes of Okada, the Young Bucks, Ricochet versus Kenny Omega, Mark Briscoe, fucking Spinball, Bailey, and Knight. You know, I thought that was actually a great opener. It was an all-star 8-man tag team match, and you can't help but say how great that match was. You know what I loved about this? You had different styles, you had different entities towards it, different offense, different spots left, right, and centre that people got behind, teasing towards Kenny Omega versus Okada. I can't fault that. You know, I was an avid fan of the last battles they've actually had, and for once it's going to be on American soil. I'm hoping it's a double or nothing. I really am. Then I look at the bigger picture from that. Obviously, we've been teased that for many, how to put it, many times. You know, I'm glad in a way, like we haven't got the likes of Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega 3 yet. I feel like we should have that at Forbidden Door over here in the United Kingdom. I'm glad it didn't materialize that way when we wanted it 2 years ago instead of having Jericho versus Will Ospreay all in. I'm glad it didn't materialize that way. The only reason why I'm saying that because of obviously the way Kenny Omega was going into that sort of thing, and it took a lot out of him, took a lot out of Will Ospreay. I'm hoping that happens for Forbidden Door. I'm still hoping to get tickets. I've looked at the pre-sale. Yes, they're in the 500, between 400 and 500 that are actually on the pre-sale as we speak. The VIP pre-sale. General release is coming very, very soon. I really hope to be going, because end of the day, I keep saying this on every time I talk about AEW, because at the end of the day, I feel like AEW is delivering right now. This is a prime example of it, what we actually saw on this past episode of Dynamite. I wish I was going to do a Dynamite and Collision up in Scotland, but I don't think I could afford both of them because obviously due to personal commitments. But it was literally, that opener was actually very, very, very good. It was like, oh my god moments. It felt like, how to put it, a pay-per-view caliber match. If you wanted an all-star faction versus an all-star faction, I'm all for it. And then we actually had the Ops versus Nick Riot and Miles. It was a squash match. It wasn't that too great. At least one thing, we had that cool-off match. No disrespect to the likes of Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and a name I'm not going to try and butcher. I'm not going to butcher it at all. But it was a squash match. It is what it is. Obviously, Joe's sort of saving himself for 2 weeks' time when he faces John Moxley. But I see a lot of chemistry towards Powerhouse Hobbs, towards the likes of Samoa Joe, and good. Really, really good. Between, minus obviously the other member, but I see like a father sort of role model sort of feel towards that. Then we had the elimination match between Timeless Tony Storm and a name I'm not going to butcher again, but that match was a good females match, a good women's match. That's what I love about AEW. They know how to execute women's wrestling to a point. This day and age in 2025, you would expect this from the mainstream scene. The main leader that people keep classing as a main leader in the likes of WWE. But they don't. I feel like they don't know how to execute the women they've actually got. And the rumors with Mariah May that be signing with WWE, the rumors that she's buying out a contract, or etc., etc., etc. I'm not being funny, guys. It's like a local trend right now. The thing is, when I look at the likes of if Mariah did jump ship, where would she fit in? They'll probably rebrand her character, let alone rebrand her completely. And I don't want that because Mariah May is fantastic, as you know full well, the feud that she's had with Timeless Tony Storm. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what actually materialize even more as and when she does come back to the ring. Because I'm just dumbfounded what Mariah May actually did. She grown over my time being an AEW supporter, and her and Tony Storm put a clinic of a match. And Tony Storm is one of the hottest women, that commodities towards what they've actually got. And I'm intrigued to see what actually pans out between Tony Storm, like building towards Is it going to be at All In, or is it going to be at Forbidden Door, or is it going to be at Double or Nothing? Between later on down the line, obviously not straight away. You literally got Mercedes Moné and Tony Storm that have been teased. Could we get a triple threat between her and Jamie Hayter, even though the likes of Mercedes Moné is actually in the final with the likes of. Do not waste this on normal TV or TV special. Period. Do not waste it. You or a triple threat between Jamie Hayter. You've literally got Mercedes Moné and the likes of Tony Storm. That would be golden in itself because you've got two great athletes, one from New Zealand, one from America, one from Australia or New Zealand, was it? Australia. I think it was Australia where Tony Storm is, I do apologise. And one from here from Britain. And things are looking up, And that match that Tony Storm was in tonight, wow. It proves that she can hang with the best. I'm hoping with Forbidden Door, there's more stardom. There's more Yoshi Pro, because obviously we've actually had teasers towards that, obviously from tonight's match as well. And that's what I mean. It just shows you what Forbidden Door could be around the corner. We could actually have few of the wrestlers from Rev Pro represented, or some Brit guys that haven't had their spot yet. I'm hoping the likes of matches we actually have Gabe Kidd versus Kenny Omega 2, maybe, from Destiny, Wrestle Destiny in Japan. And what a way to do it is to build that up at some point towards them two having a clinic of a match once again. As you know, for a while, Gabe Kidd, if you don't know, Gabe Kidd's from my hometown. He only lives technically 2 miles away from my door. I think it's 2 miles. I could be wrong. But that guy's gone on leaps and bounds since as long as I've known him, and that just shows you, and to have that sort of entity. Then we had the moment with Hurt Business, with MJF begging to Bobby Lashley, why you literally not accepting me in the Hurt Syndicate, sorry. And you literally offered him everything like cars and the full works that what going to do says we hurt people, hurt someone. Now, here's the thing is when you look at the roster the way AEW is, it could be wide open. But I think he's probably gonna interfere maybe towards that cage match between him and Samoa Joe and Jon Moxley at Spring Break. Or Break Spring or whatever it is. I forget what name it is, I do apologise, but that was set for from this evening, where Joe literally said earlier on, make it a cage match. So it's made official. That's made it interesting even more towards that feud. You may think there's no interruptions because obviously being a cage match, but I'm hoping it's like MJF attacking the likes of Jon Moxley or the likes of Samoa Joe, because obviously they've got beef from the past. Him and Samoa Joe, because obviously that's where Samoa Joe got the title from, the likes of MJF. And I feel like if he does hurt someone big as that, let alone hurt the likes of Jon Moxley, he's unstoppable to get hurt. It would be an eye-opener to see what materializes. Who's he going to actually target? Is he going to hurt the likes of Tony Khan, or is he going to hurt the likes of Kenny Omega, or is he going to hurt the likes of Will Ospreay, one of the fan favourites? With the Hurt Syndicate, you know for what they're going to aim big or go home. The old catchphrase that's been for many, many times. And I always look at this like when they've actually done this sort of segment. Who is MJF going to hurt? Other than getting hurt himself. And it does surprise me how long they've actually done this Hurt Syndicate storyline. As long as they've kept me interested, engaged with it, and I'm really intrigued to see where it pans out. Literally blows my mind. It really does, guys. To think that something is this little, and you brought a faction in, they've done it Impact Wrestling done somewhat in WWE, but I feel like they didn't utilize it properly to its full extent. What could have been, not to what it is, if you know what I mean. And it just intrigues me. It really intrigues me to see who is MJF going to hurt. Or is he going to back out last minute? Or somewhere like that. Just to write him off TV for a bit and get the approval to join Hurt Syndicate. I'm really, really invested in this to see where it's going to go from that going forward. Now, one of my pet peeves that Tony Khan does, that you're putting the Ring of Honor TV Championship match between Jay Lethal and Nick Wayne, who's the current champion, on the line on your Pioneer show. Why? Yes, it builds the Christian Cage sort of thing, but it doesn't help with the Ring of Honor product. I feel like Ring of Honor titles should be defended on the likes of Ring of Honor. But we could have said that back in the day when WWF had the world title or the WCW through the invasion angle. If you was doing an invasion angle, it would make sense, because to be honest, I wouldn't mind a invasion angle between Ring of Honor and the likes of, even though we've had like participants from it, I wouldn't mind like an invasion angle from Ring of Honor to go to the likes of Dynamite or Collision, sort of invade it sort of thing, like the way just to give it some entity towards people, giving it a lot more respect than where it's due, and it would be so cool if they did that, like AEW versus Ring of Honor. Tell me your thoughts, because we've actually had some matches from it, don't get me wrong, on AEW products, but I feel like there should be more to it if you are going to put the likes of Ring of Honor Championships on the line on your weekly product that is meant to be AEW. I don't get it. That's just me being honest. And I look at the main event that what we had yet again. Another great semi-final match in the Owen Hart tournament. Between Hangman Adam Page and Kyle Fletcher. I just want to point this out. Kyle Fletcher's come on leaps and bounds. I knew what he could do when he was on the scene, don't get me wrong, but with the likes of Kyle Fletcher, he's just Kyle Fletcher. He was my breakout star of last year in AEW. And he's shown his worth to the company, even though he did not go through to the final. So we've got literally Will Ospreay versus Hangman Adam Page. And I'm literally dumbfounded because I did not know which way that match was going to go. Even though Hangman Adam Page, it was in his hometown, his home state. And I felt like looking at that match and I'm thinking, that should have been on a pay-per-view. That's just me being honest. That should have been on a pay-per-view. I could say pay-per-view because AEW don't say PLA. So it feels at home. And why did you waste such a good caliber match? Even though I respect Adam Page. I respect, as you know full well, Kyle Fletcher, like I've just mentioned. But why have you wasted such a good pay-per-view caliber match on that? And I'll tell you one thing that's really, really intrigued me. With the Summer Spectacular, Summer Blockbuster, or whatever you want to class it as. That's a 4-hour show. That's going to be such an eye-opener for AEW. Because at the end of the day, sometimes when I watch the likes of AEW, I feel like it should go on for 3 hours. But this is pushing the boundaries. They were actually if this isn't on a pay-per-view provider, and they're putting this on a weekly one, they're giving you 4 hours of AEW Summer Blockbuster. I'm hoping they're not doing it like where they normally do it. They've got Dynamite one bit and then then Collision on another. You know, that's what I mean. It's like if you are putting this on free-to-air TV, well, matter of speaking, or you put it on Max, or you're putting it on Thriller here in the United Kingdom, formerly known as Fight, you're putting this on ITV. You know, this is showing what AEW can give away. You know, if you do a 4-hour massive show, you know, if they can do a 4-hour show and they do really good matches, good feuds building towards that, that's even before the likes of Forbidden Door, which I'm eyeing to go to, like I've mentioned. It just shows you if they can put a good show on for 4 hours, instead of listening to, I'll be honest with you, and I'll say it again. Compared to WWE, I do not normally compare, but at the moment I feel like AEW is delivering very, very well content. And that's just me being honest. If they can deliver a good 4-hour show and keep people entertained and get people talking about it instead of hate more than positive, it proves they can do it in 3 hours. I feel like at the moment when I look at the likes of AEW product, it needs 3 hours. Because the plethora of talent they've actually got, they're not even using. Or they're probably bringing in. You know, which I can see them bringing more stars in. It will give the eye openers towards that. That's why I've said before, and I'll say it again, they shouldn't have got rid of Dark. They shouldn't have got rid of Dark Elevation. Because that would have been an ideal candidate for the new people as well as the people that don't use on TV often. Now, if they do extend to 3 hours, I'm intrigued. I really am intrigued. If they can pull it off in a 4-hour show, imagine what they can do in a 3-hour show. But anyway, I'm off before this cat next to me decides to walk in front of the camera again and acting all cute for you guys at home. Trust me, he's like that off camera. He just like wants attention. He's attention little. Speak of the devil. He's here again.
Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Who's that? Go on, up you go. But that's what I mean. So now he's showing his butt again. Oh, that cat. But anyway, I'm off. You finished? You move that tail. But anyway, I'm off. Until next time, guys. Remember, you know what to do. Thank you ever so much for the 7 people already. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you'll be notified anytime when I do any uploads for you guys right here on YouTube.